we have heard the rumors around the world and from dozens and dozens of sources that individuals like Ted the Terrible Turner and this goony-looking guy up there in Seattle who says that he's going to give us the new toy for the world, want to reduce the population of the planet by 95% to fall in line with what they, when I talk about they, the eugenicists, want to do, to bring this world down to a controllable, absolutely dictatorial remaining population. Do you think there's anything at all to that, or is it absolutely hogwash?
I wish it were. As I mentioned in Thrive, it's the hardest thing practically for people to believe. It certainly was really challenging for me to let in that could be a major part of the agenda. But I see, more and more documentation about it, more and more threats from the would-be controllers, and then you simply look at the evidence, and you look at the unnecessary wars, and you look at all of the toxins, from fluoride to aspartame to MSG to chemtrails to pesticides, and then the GMOs. And is this coincidence? Is it stupidity? Is it corporate greed? What really are the chances that all of this would line up in this way? And then, we've already have enough resources to feed everybody on the planet many times over. So why isn't that happening? Is it just incompetence? I don't believe that anymore.
Could it be that they just don't want to feed the people? They could make East Africa a flourishing garden spot of the world like it was.
Yeah. No,
they've increased the size of the Sahara Desert by 1,000 miles.
Well, what I've really learned to do is just say, well, maybe, and then try on the lens of the global domination agenda. Imagine if this were true. Does the evidence then make sense? And to me, it's unavoidable that the powers that be believe that it would be a lot easier to control less people as long as they've got enough to serve them. Then the rest are extraneous and dangerous. And you look at things like the Georgia Guidestones and other whistleblower documentation, and it actually looks surprisingly consistent, particularly when you realize that that groups like the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds were funding eugenics. They were funding involuntary sterilization that inspired Hitler.
Oh, no.
That whole agenda has not gone away.
No. You mean to say that they were actually involved on the other side?
Well, they've been funding both sides of World War II and others for quite a while, but there's a very clear record. Particularly if you read Jim Marrs and the Rise of the Fourth Reich, you can follow the record of how that Third Reich had to go underground, but it didn't go away. So people think, oh, and how can you compare these people to Hitler and so forth? Well, they were the ones paying him to begin with to do that agenda, and the agenda has just gotten a lot more clever. They realize if they actually do invasions to people who could actually protect themselves, that's not going to work. So World War III has been on for some time. It's economic.
Can we not only survive, but actually in this very bad climate, from the sky through the electronic devices, the murder meters, the strontium, the sulfur hexafluorides, with all of these poisons that are dropping upon us, can we actually thrive? That sounds a bit bizarre. I'm telling you, when we talk about thriving, I'm just hoping that God grants us the ability to stay alive through this.
Well, when I was putting together all of the articles on the website over a period of 3 years, it could be fairly depressing work because I'm talking about the critical issues and following the money and the global domination agenda in every sector and every related topic. And at one point I had a breakthrough and realized that every one of the issues that I had researched and was describing was actually human-made. And if it's human-made, then as opposed to a comet, soaring toward the planet or something like that, it can be human-fixed. And then even further, the fact that it's not that human beings are an unworthy species. It's that we've actually been duped by a very small handful of people, that we outnumber 1,000,000 to 1. And if that agenda is exposed, which is happening through people like you and Thrive and many, many other organizations worldwide, people wake up to that truth and then use the sort of collaborative tools that we've talked about previously. I think we can not only survive this, but actually be thriving within a few decades, because I know that health is self-reinforcing. And as people get the truth and we get rid of the crooked money systems, and we get rid of the poisonous, food and agricultural systems, and we get rid of the media that lies to us and the schools that indoctrinate us and so forth, and actually liberate human creativity and compassion, I think that the rise in prosperity, in health, in security is going to be geometric. It's not just going to be a linear rise. It's going to take off.
An exponential rise.
An absolutely exponential rise, such that it feeds on itself. The feedback is self-reinforcing, so that people want to keep going that direction. And to me, there are two major keys. One is the integrity. One is getting the truth, and then having a major truth and reconciliation, because the money is there. Just like the food is there, the money is there for everyone on the planet to be thriving right now. And then secondly, the whole notion of freedom. You look through recorded history from the pharaohs to the kings, to the church, to the feudal systems, to the dictators, even to democracy. They're all systems which, granted, thank goodness, are going in the direction of freedom and justice for all. And that's why people were so excited about the United States in the early days. But I try to remind people we're not there yet. Because as soon as you have mandatory taxation, then you've got the seed of tyranny. Because people are going to gather around the ability to put on a uniform and a gun and take other people's money and then go do what you want with it. And they're going to turn that into tyranny, which has happened throughout history in every country that has had that right.
Well, taxation without representation is bad enough. Think of how it is with taxation with representation.
Yeah, well,
they're representing to be the cures of our problem, the solvers of our problem. They're the creators of our problem.
How's that going for us so far?
It's not
depending on these individuals and this type of governance structure to rescue us. Do people really think that just getting in the red shirts or the blue shirts is going to save this situation? Or would we be willing to try actual freedom and justice for everyone, so people get to live the lives that they want?
Wait,
No, let me finish that thought.
You said
they get
freedom.
To do
try freedom.
Exchange.
Yeah.
Unless they violate someone else. If they violate someone else, then of course, then there needs to be justice systems which have to compete with each other for ethical reputations and consistency that handle that once again with truth and reconciliation and restoration. But we've been indoctrinated to think, if you don't have the granny state or the papa state telling you what to do and providing for all your needs, it's going to be chaos and blood in the streets. Well, it's chaos and blood in the streets right now and about to get worse. So, fortunately, a lot of thinkers have spent decades figuring out, what would it look like in the schools and the healthcare systems and the businesses and in communication systems and so forth if it were a true free market.
Do you realize how radical that sounds today? I mean, You're talking about freedom, you're talking about constitutional protection, you're talking about the right to go out and engage in free enterprise.
Yeah.
Do you know how radical that sounds in Santa Cruz?
Anywhere in the world practically right now. And most people don't understand the conversation. They haven't done the reading. They haven't done the thinking. So it starts to sound scary. But if you stand back and look at the facts that even beyond the church, the state is the most destructive, murdering, dangerous idea, much less institution, in human history. And do we really think that that's what's going to rescue us?
Now, I believe in God, and I believe there's a good and bad, and I see people actually up at the Bohemian Grove, if not in reality, kill children to throw them over the fire and the sacrifice of care. But even if it's mock children, I mean, what sort of mentality would one have to have to actually engage in this? And we're talking about presidents, and higher men in the social network around the country, the Kissingers, the Zbigniew Brzezinskis. We're talking about men that are respected. We're talking about men who decide who's to live and who's to die, who's to go to war. We're talking about respected men. Now, my friend Dr. Ed Spencer, he says, well, look, he says, maybe you've got it all wrong, Hilder. Maybe these are not just evil men. Maybe they're not just satanic. Maybe there's another entity. Maybe we came from a group that maybe existed and who's behind the scenes. The big heads, the big brains, the guys that existed years ago. Maybe they're living in caves somewhere. I don't know. But I'm concerned that the people who run this country and run the countries throughout the world really accept the reduction of the planet by 95%. 19 out of 20 people exist on the planet. They don't care about the children. They're trying to kill the children. They want to monsterize the public. Things like this are unimaginable. Can we come out of this with a program, with a viable leadership? Could we not have some individuals like yourself, maybe, who could offer us another course? You and your wife has put together this Thrive movie. Can we have some light at the end of the tunnel that isn't a damn train?
Well, I think that we can learn from each other. And I think that I don't think we need leaders. I think that we need inspiring role models. And I think that we need the freedom to follow our own heart's desire when it doesn't violate anyone else. But one of the key realizations for me in my quest to find out what was really going on is to realize that not only is, according to statistics, about 1% of the population in most countries actual psychopaths or sociopaths, people who actually don't have remorse about manipulating, dominating, injuring, or killing other people for their own agendas.
This is sort of like a for real CSI movie in life?
Yeah, and if we acknowledge the fact that those people exist, that's dangerous enough. But when you realize that with the governance and military and financial systems that we've allowed to be created, they are so corrupt that those sick people will naturally rise to the top of those systems because they're not bothered with morals. They're not bothered with integrity. So they'll get rewarded for just playing out a power agenda, and they'll be taken right to the top. And it was stunning for me to realize that not only that there are a lot of those people in the world, but that they've got their fingers on nuclear weapons. They're controlling armies. They're controlling, Congress and the Senates and parliaments throughout the world. And unless that is recognized, and it's a very hard thing to recognize, most of us don't wake up, thank goodness, trying to figure out how we can not only destroy billions of lives, but get off on it in the process.
Well, you mean sort of like a young boy masturbating. I mean, these guys are out there in the grove, naked, sometimes doing the boys and telling us that they're for the world, and they're the people who created the atomic bomb. They're the same people who ordered the dropping of the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the two most heavily populated Christian cities in Japan before the war was over. According to my sources, I talked to General Wiley Gainey under Curtis LeMay. He said that before the end of the war, there was peace overtures from the Japanese military. They wanted peace, and that they dropped the bomb on these people, killing them, roasting them.
Twice.
They killed twice, not only once but twice. I mean, this is I hate to be a little bit mad, but I mean,
I've seen the letter from his board of advisors, from Truman's board of advisors, advising him to do it twice. I mean, you can think, why in the world would that be necessary? And the letter specifically recommends that they do it in order to terrorize the rest of the world.
To bring in the United Nations.
Yes.
So you're talking about Whorehouse Harry. We're talking about the President of the United States.
Mm-hmm. Well, this was his advisors writing to him, recommending that they not just do a peace treaty, not just drop one bomb, but actually establish a world of fear.
Well, maybe it was just a scientific experiment. To think of that, maybe to have an experiment scientifically, they have to kill another 100,000 or 50,000. They've got to do this. That's what they do, for God's sakes. Please.
So the key for me
Listen,
is that these people, it needs to be recognized that these people are sick. They're dissociated from normal human emotions and need to be obsoleted and, given the care that they need, but taken out of positions of power. Actually, nobody should have power over other people that way unless people voluntarily, choose some sort of association that has leadership. But the seed of tyranny itself is that anyone would have a monopoly on force and a monopoly on money, and therefore be able to fundamentally do whatever they wanted to other human beings because they had legalized it.
We're speaking to Foster Gamble. I've heard few things in my life by men of prominence that were so honest. And this man has done so much for so many. You don't really realize that. You don't know that. You don't know it, and you won't know it until you pick up the film and you watch it. We're going to put bits and pieces of this interview on Paradigm Shift TV, because we may not be able to get the big picture, but you have gotten much of the big picture today. And I want you to make copies of our film. We're talking about this one. I'm giving you permission to make copies of this on the internet. This isn't the major film. It's not the one you have to buy. You're going to get this one pretty much for free. But we're talking about those who are killing humanity, killing mankind, deliberately destroying the planet. They're not trying to save the planet or put a tin can in the wastebasket so it can be recycled. We need the recycling of humanity, so and honesty and decency, for God's sakes.
Well, speaking of that, I'd like to say to people as we're wrapping up that I really appreciate the viewers of this conversation sticking with it and letting the information in. Don't believe it, but just let it in so that you can check it out yourself, because it's important to face difficult realities. My background, a lot of it is in the martial arts. I used to teach the nonviolent martial art of Aikido, and unless you have an accurate perception of reality, you are crippled in terms of taking care of yourself and your loved ones, and in this case, our species and our planet. So thank you for letting this in. Check it out. Support Anthony's work in getting the truth out, and check out Thrive, which you can see for free at thrivemovement.com. And if you get inspired to act, go to the Solutions Hub, and you'll find, many people.
And
from
don't
across the
you
globe
believe?
you.
Don't you believe this guy? Don't believe a word he has to say. Doubt him. Check it out. Check out what he is saying. Check out what I'm saying. Check out our films. Doubt it. Be a skeptic. You need to do that. We're going to come back with part 3 of Thrive with Foster Gamble, the Thrivealist. It's up to you to spread this word and get this message. We want this around the world in all languages. If you've got a different language and you can speak English and you're saying it's in Swahili, damn, reach us. We'll put this thing out in Swahili. We need some donations for the editors and things of that nature, but we need this message out to you. It is imperative. Some people speak and their words can lead towards the thrival of the world. This is Anthony J. Hilder, and this is Paradigm Shift. For God's sakes, take a stand. Help us save you.